Hey everybody, it is Radley here with the Angel Tarot Show exclusively on mindbodyspirit.fm, but you can also find the video version over on YouTube. So whether you are listening, Heidi ho everybody, or you are watching, can you see me now everybody? I am here with my dear friend, Heather Hildebrand. Hi Heather.
Hi, everyone.
So Heather is what I call the queen of prayer, if not the goddess of prayer, because nobody can pray like Heather Hildebrand. I just want you to know that's just the way it is. And that is relatable because we are in part 3 of our Archangel Realm series here on Mind, Body, Spirit, and I'm having a blast. I hope you are. So we had the first week where we did a summary of all the 15 archangels. Last week, we had a fun discussion with Joni Light. Don't you love Joni, Heather?
I love Joni. I have so many
Right?
fun stories
You
with you.
just, you can't not. But we talked about Archangel Jophiel, the Archangel of Joy. And this week we're talking about Sandalphon. Sandalphon is said to be the Archangel of music, but also of prayer. And so we're going to get into that. But before we do, I just want to remind you, you can find me at radleyvalentine.com. You can find Heather Hildebrand at heatherhildebrand.com, correct?
Correct. I love how you use that Southern accent when you talk about
I mean, I was born and raised in the South. I can pull it out of thin air if I need to. I just don't know. It's because I'm from Tennessee, the other T state. For those of you who don't know, Heather's from Texas. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Sandalphon. So if you are watching this, you will notice that Miss Heather Hildebrand is dressed in turquoise, and she did that on purpose because Archangel Sandalphon comes in a turquoise color. All the archangels have a color that they vibrate to. It's basically the whole mythos behind their halo. And by mythos, I don't mean that the archangels are not real. It's just that whole element of the belief that archangels are these things that have the big wings and the halos. They show up that way if we need them to, but it's not necessarily their actual appearance. It's something that we have come to believe in. But that whole color thing is a vibrational tuning from them. And Sandalphon's is turquoise. Therefore, if you're really into gemstones or you're really into crystals, turquoise is a great crystal for you to use to basically get into connection with Sandalphon. It appears to me that Heather is wearing a little bit of turquoise. Is that right?
yes, I have that and moonstone and rose quartz. I do.
Well, and those are fabulous together because what have we got? We've got Moonstone, which attributes to Haniel. I'm jumping ahead. Don't worry about it. You know, but that whole psychic ability, Rose Quartz, the love, and then we've got the turquoise that is Sandalphon. That's a great little mixture there when it comes to the concept of prayer. So Sandalphon is said to be so tall that his feet are on earth and his head is in heaven. And that is relative and important because of the whole concept that he brings prayer from earth to heaven. And I believe this to be a metaphor. Keep in mind that a lot of this information about the archangels comes from very ancient times, and their ability to sort of understand this whole concept of getting something from earth to heaven was sort of built upon the concept of, well, they must be really tall. Not necessarily, I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't matter. The whole visual for us as human beings, and we love visuals, allows us to have this whole understanding of this being that literally can so easily take our prayers from us and hand them to the divine. Now, one of the things, if you missed it in our energetic weather report that I mentioned, was that Heather was great at weaving prayers and that would be important this week. And it is because that is what Sandalphon is said to do. He is said to take our prayers and weave them into a wreath. A beautiful wreath. He takes all the prayers that are coming to him at any given time, weaves them into a wreath, and lays them at the feet of the divine for them to be understood and to be responded to, because all prayers are responded to. We as human beings don't necessarily plug in, right, Heather?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, it's absolutely correct. And I love how you were talking about the physical description of Sandalphon, because before I even had read about that, my personal experience was that when I connected with his energy, he was so tall. And I just remember saying, I can't even see your face. And so literally he showed me his face. And Sandalphon's energy is just so unconditional loving. And as far as the prayers go, I think so many of us can get into that space of feeling vulnerable enough to ask, but kind of get stuck in, what is the feedback? Am I going to get feedback? What is that going to look like?
And, that's really important what you just sort of said. What even does it look like? Because even from the standpoint of the archangels, and what do they look like? They are, if you missed my episode called The Hall of the Archangels, it was episode number 20. It was 2 weeks ago. Then I highly recommend you go back and watch it so that you can have sort of like this whole summary data. But just for right now, archangels do not have a particular, well, they don't have gender. We assign them gender based on our interpretation of what they do and whether it feels or seems masculine or feminine to us. But they also don't have a particular look. Archangels are going to morph their look for all of us individually in order to match up. Now, for me, Archangel Sandalphon has sort of a Middle Eastern kind of appearance. He's very handsome, but his energy to me is almost like a prayer, because it is that whole energy of reverence, but also receptiveness. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just loving hearing your description, because Sandalphon is the only angel that I've connected with that felt so regal. That's the way that I know how to, it literally so tall and so stable, right? Unwavering. He came across to me as this huge chess piece. I know that might sound silly to some people, but like a chess, how like bishops or whatever in like a chess piece, it's kind of like there's this like a regal attire. But with that regalness was such this, I think people here on earth, if we came across someone that looked regal, they may also seem unapproachable. Totally the extreme opposite with Sandalphon, of just so welcoming and so safe. And I think it's also important to just note that our angels and Sandalphon are and any of the archangels really have such a deep desire to support us and help us in anything it is that we may need. So I think one of the things that's been important for me over the years that I've learned is that there's really nothing insignificant. Like, we might think things are minimal or it's insignificant and not important to request prayer, but to them, anything that's going to bring us peace and help us in any way is important to them.
And, that actually brings to mind something that I'm becoming, like, I feel more and more aware of, is that I have really started to think about these color vibrations that the archangels present themselves to be like the refraction that happens when sunlight hits a crystal. And so if we think about the crystal as a metaphor for source, as a metaphor for the divine, that none of these particular rays of light that come from the crystal, each representing an archangel, are fully the divine. But I feel like they each have by their resonance of their color and their specific things that they bring to humanity, that they are a part of the divine. And so for me, Sandalphon brings this part of the divine that is the element of non-judgment, loving parent, understanding, compassionate, and willing, and even joyful. I think all the archangels are joyful, all of them. But that's his little ray of light, is that whole, and that is an element of God. And if we added up all the archangels, all the things that they were known for, then you come around to the source, the crystal that stands in the middle of it. And so I feel like that's sort of like why Sandalphon is that way, or has that element. You know, people talk a lot about Sandalphon from the standpoint of music. And I really get that. But I think that they're more related than people might actually think about, because I think there's an Amy Grant song that I love that's called Like a Hallelujah. And it talks about how we as human beings, that when we cry out with our challenges and our pain and stuff, that's more beautiful than a hallelujah to the
I
divine,
agree.
to source.
And I
And
love that song.
I love that song. I play it all the time. But the thing to me is that that almost implies that our prayers are music to the divine, that our prayers, our reaching out to the divine, whether it is an outcrying of concern or an outcrying of joy, you know, whether it is, you know, the loss of a parent or the birth of a child happening in my family soon. Hadn't told you yet. Twins. I know, right? Anyway, I'm probably not supposed to say that. Sorry, Kristen. So anyway, we have this whole thing of the music and of our prayers and how beautiful that is. And so Sandalphon is about music. He has the element, if you're into music, and especially if you're a career musician, Sandalphon should be a buddy of yours. So
yeah. Do you know what I love about Sandalphon and music? Being the fact that I'm also a medium and help people connect with their deceased loved ones on the other side. A lot of times people will get messages through music, and Sandalphon can definitely be the little tap, tap, tap on the shoulder to make you pay attention, or to make you go, yes, that was a message for you. Yes, you are supposed to pay attention to that. And I've seen that a lot with clients who've questioned whether or not they're actually, was that really a sign? I'm like, work with Sandalphon. Sandalphon won't let you miss the sign if it is coming through music, because Sandalphon's all about music and using it in beautiful ways. I mean, music is helpful and healing to us. We know that. We share the love of music, whether it's something that makes our energy, vibe high because it's Xanadu or ABBA or whatever.
Xanadu, dun, 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 dun.
Right. Or if it's even meditative music or Hertz frequencies or whatever the case may be, like music can be extremely healing. And I think that not only, seeing prayer as musical notes going up to heaven, we both discussed that, of having that experience where we feel like we've seen our prayers, and our prayers are like little notes, going up to heaven. Or whether it is them using music to bring a sign or a message back to us, whether it's our angels or our loved ones on the other side. It's very, very, very powerful. One of the things that I think was probably the biggest transformational moment I had with Sandalphon many, many years ago is when I asked, please help me to know what I should be asking for help with. It was a moment where I had just received such wisdom when I was working with the angels, and specifically Sandalphon. And that was a big game changer for me, because after that moment, I started to channel my prayers. And after that moment, I saw that as I would work with my clients, I start all my sessions with a prayer to create that sacred space. And I started channeling prayers for them as well. And a lot of times messages will start to come through as to what I'm asking for in that prayer. And so to me, it really hit home what I spoke of earlier about they want to be a part of all the nitty gritty stuff of our life, where we kind of save prayer for like the heavy hitting stuff or when we're in desperation. And really it needs to be this is how I communicate with the divine on a daily basis, because I am part of the divine and I am deeply loved.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like it gives us a different metaphor for the whole prayers being woven. So it gives us a whole metaphor, I think, of music notes that are woven into an orchestra. And so we can take that more traditional metaphor for how things are done with Sandalphon and basically say, well, here's one that's related to music. I think that one of the things that I remember the most about Sandalphon, and I'll be absolutely honest with you, it's like even being the angel boy and having done this for too many years, that I'm going no more years than I'm going to admit, right? Is that I don't reach out to Sandalphon as much as I think I should. And, it's like I have a tendency to like reach out to the archangels like many human beings do and go, oh, well, I need to be able to bring joy into my life. So I'll reach out to Jophiel, or I need to reach out to Michael because I need to feel safe and protected. But I don't think about the whole thing of Sandalphon, here are my prayers. Please, 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 hand them up unless I'm in trouble, and I that whole thing that happened with Riley when she, temporarily disappeared for 48 hours, and I thought I was going to absolutely lose my mind. I was into Sandalphon then. I was really into Sandalphon then. It's like, I was also into Ariel, and I was also into Jean-Muel, and I was into Michael, and I was into everybody. But, this whole element of I guess I want to say that Sandalphon, connecting with Sandalphon, creates an element of faith. There is an element of, in my moment of great despair and anguish, do not have faith in myself to get this prayer above my earlobes, but I have faith that Sandalphon will. And so it's this sort of like natural progression where we can have faith in our prayers. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because so I've had clients before, maybe their angels are like, give me 2 weeks, start talking to us, start communicating with us. And then they'll be like, I don't know if I'm doing it right. And I think one of the biggest things that we could say today for everyone listening is there's no way you can do it wrong, but of course, yes, Sandalphon is going to help you feel more secure in, okay, I'm calling on Sandalphon. He's in charge of prayer. This can't go wrong. Right. And I definitely can't go wrong in calling on Sandalphon's help. But I also think about when you're sharing that story is one of the other things that surprised me that Sandalphon helps me with, and I say helps me because it's not something I've healed 100% correctly, is opening myself up to receive and expanding my ability to receive and letting go of any resistance I have to receiving. And prayer, asking for help from the divine, is the first start and being able to allow yourself to receive. But that's just the beginning, right? And oftentimes we're minimizing what we're asking for help, with, and we're maybe feeling comfortable asking the divine for help, but not necessarily willing to allow earthly help to show up for us. And so for anybody who struggles with that, it's also something that I would highly pay attention to, is Sandalphon can help you to let go of the things that keep you from resisting and allowing yourself to receive, because we need to in order to be in the flow.
Yeah. This is making me think of something. And okay, so for people who are new to me and are new to angels, just ignore this little sentence, but I just am noticing that if you think about turquoise in a way is a blending of blue and green, right? And so what you just said to me over the last 10 minutes refers to Sandalphon as this archangel who can help us to see the signs, something I would think of Shamuel for, pale green, but also to allow friends in to help us, which is something I think of Raguel for, pale blue. And so now I'm getting all like super nerdy about this whole color scheme thing. And now I got to go think about that. So for those of you who know angels really well, maybe that was fascinating to you. I also just want to back up and say, for those of you who don't know me, Riley is my little girl, Sheltie. When we moved to where we live now, there was a moment where she got away from my husband. And so we lost her for 48 hours. We got her back. She's healthy, she's strong, she's happy. And we have built a freaking fortress around this house. She will never do that again. But anyway, just to like, so nobody thought that I lost my child, but I did.
Right. But it is your child. I mean,
my child. I did. Yeah. I
when
did.
when you say you were, I was calling on all the big guns too, because Radley is a very dear friend of mine who feels like family. And I'm also, you know, even though I have human children, I have dog children and they're a family.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
that was a terrifying moment.
So let's allow that then, because you basically gave me a segue to the whole concept of you were praying too. And it's like, if I've got something that I really need prayers for, you're my number one go-to person. And part of that is, and very attached, I think, to Sandalphon, is that you pray like a song. You really do. It's not that you're singing, not that you couldn't, because you can, but it's like, it is so beautiful. And, you know, it's just so eloquent, and it is so seamless. It's just seamless. And so you talk about that as being a channeling, that you channel prayer. So tell people a little bit more about that and what that means and what it's like, as opposed to necessarily the 5-year-old that says, now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. Oh my God. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Is that right?
Well, yes. And it's so funny because
I can remember that, but I don't know what I had for lunch yesterday. Okay, go ahead.
Well, we had people at our house for Easter, and everybody had been waiting and waiting and waiting for the last person to show up, and they were starving. And so it's like everybody looked and it's like, oh, are we gonna have to wait for everybody to get in here to say a prayer? And so I was like, God is good, God is great. You have permission to get your plate.
Oh my God, now see, that's not the way we did it in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's God is good, God is great. No, wait, God is great, God is good. Let us thank him for this food. Amen.
Yes. Well, we did an abridged version really quick. So, but as far as the channeling, to me, I call it that because I started to have things come out of my mouth that I didn't even realize I would think about what I was going to say before I said it, until I had those moments. And they were really smart things. And so I was like, ooh, that is so good. I have to pay attention to that. And so a lot of times that happens with my clients. I pray before I work with clients because I want to create that sacred space. So there are certain things I'm going to repeat and say in every single prayer because I'm creating that sacred space for the divine communication to occur. But then other times, other things show up, and I will tell them, when you go back to that recording, listen to that prayer too, because I really think it's just more about opening our heart space. When we open up our heart space to say, I'm willing to receive whatever knowledge, whatever discernment, whatever inspiration, whatever encouragement. The angels are in the solution business. This is what I say.
I love that.
And so anything that we're struggling with or we're challenged by, I want, people to understand and know that can come up with 0 solutions, and they can come up with 4 or 5 ideas that we've never even thought of. So we want to be in that open space in our heart and in our mind to be able to receive that. And sometimes you may be in a situation where you're really struggling, and in those situations, I tell people, just be willing. Don't go into a place where your mind needs to figure out how you would get from point A, B, C, D, and E. Just be willing to allow the answers to show up. I'm willing. I might not have a plan, I might not understand or know, but I'm going to communicate with my angels, and I'm going to stay really open. And so the channeling is really more about me opening my heart and my mind to be of love and service to others usually, but but it's also for myself. And I'm super duper grateful for that. And I'm super grateful for friends like you that I can come to in prayer together, because I think that, you don't have to be a religious person to utilize prayer. I think we need
Oh my
everyone to
goodness.
understand and know that.
Yeah.
But I do believe in when you have two or more coming together, it is even much more powerful, and allowing yourself the opportunity to be with someone, to come with someone that you trust, to pray with you and hold that sacred space with you. It is amazing, and it does wonderful things. And one of the things that you said earlier about Sandalphon, about like this loving parent, I really want to encourage anybody that's listening that didn't have a loving parent to be open, willing, and receptive to receive the energy and the experience and the relationship with the divine, even though you haven't had that. Because I think so much of the time through religion, we hear like, oh, God is this loving father. Well, people that didn't have a loving father are not going to have any understanding of what that could potentially even be if they've never experienced it, maybe in their wildest dreams. But the divine does love us in that way, so unconditionally and so perfectly, that sometimes people will even report like feeling unworthy of that. And I think Sandalphon can help us to understand our worthiness so that we can be open to receive.
And I think what you said too, that's really important, is that how prayer is not attached to religion any more than angels are. Because, when I many years ago in my mid-20s walked away from religion for lots of obvious reasons that we won't go into today. But when I walked away from religion, one of the things that accidentally got thrown out like the baby with bathwater for me was prayer. And what's ironic, if you think about it, I didn't give up prayer. I gave up the word prayer. Exactly. Because I attached it so much to religion. And so it became my thoughts and meditations. I just basically rebranded it. I gave it a new name. And, my daily meditations, I will remember you in my daily meditations today, and so I would basically it's, again, it was a rebranding. And, it took, a solid 25 years for me to get that word back. And, and it was, I think you were a part of it, really, in a way, because it's like you were kind of in my life and I was starting to notice this and starting to go, well, this is super cool. And yet it was like, she isn't actually technically doing anything that I'm doing. She does it differently. She's the poet laureate of prayer. Oh, you just got a new title, the poet laureate of prayer.
Okay, I'll take it.
I think you should put it on your website. But it's like that whole, it's you did it so beautifully, but you weren't really literally doing anything I wasn't doing. Right. And somewhere in there, I took the word back. I took that whole word back and was like, okay, you know what? This actually is not attached to anything other than source, divine, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, the universe. It isn't attached to any sort of belief system, but literally just like angels. It is something that I think that all human beings of all belief systems have some sort of connection to, that is just built into us. We don't, I'm my favorite Christmas movie is the Santa Claus.
I love that too.
That is my favorite movie, Christmas. And there's a scene where Scott Calvin, the soon-to-be Santa Claus, is in his bedroom at the North Pole, and he's talking to the head elf, whose name is Judy. And she's talking to him, and he's like going, I don't believe this place. And she said, well, that's not surprising. Kids don't have to see this place to know that it exists. They just know. And so that, I think, is us as children of the divine. We don't have to see angels to know that they exist. We just sort of somehow know. And we don't have to see the power of prayer to know that it's a real thing. It's a thing that we can do. Now, I do think, and I wish you would talk to this briefly, is that we can be in this space where we lose faith in prayer. How do we get it back?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, one thing I'd like to just say before I answer that is, like, if we can just look at prayer as just communication, that's all it is. So if you want to call it something different, it's just being in communication, because it's going to help you stay connected to the true divine spark of yourself. And we all come from this powerful force of love, and it's more about staying in connection with that. But when we lose faith, we have to be willing to see it differently. We have to be willing, again, it goes back to that willingness of, did I misunderstand? What was the lesson here? I'm willing to take the love, the light, the lesson, and release everything else to be completely healed. Because sometimes life delivers us hard blows that our mind can't fathom and understand why we would have to experience something. And oftentimes, God, in quotation marks, gets blamed for things, right? And we look at things as punishments. Like, why am I being punished?
Mhm.
And really, if we look back at a lot of things that we felt were punishments, it was protection. I mean, how many times have you ever had that thing happen, right? Where it was like, I thought I was really getting taken through the ringer. Just had this conversation with somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it was over something, random in our day-to-day life. But again, the angels are in all the parts of our life, right? And so about a year or so ago, she had an appraisal of her home that came back really low, and she was really kind of bothered by it. Well, yesterday she got something from the tax people trying to bump up her taxes way too high. And she's like, well, I'm going to show them this nice little appraisal that I just got less than 6 months ago and be able to fight my taxes. I know that's super random, but a lot of times
Really?
there are big things in our life that we feel like we're being punished, and really it's like we're being protected. And so if we're willing to look at something to say, what was I supposed to understand? What was I being shown? Help me to look at what I was supposed to learn, the love, the light, the lessons. That's what I always try to focus on, and release everything else to be completely healed. Because if we stay stuck to trauma or tragedy or suffering, or what's the word that I'm looking for? Rad, can you intuitively? But we don't want to stay stuck and to be a victim. We don't want to get in victim mode, right? That's never, ever, ever going to serve us. And so when we lose our faith, I think it really is a choice for us to be willing to say, is this working for me? Because when we lose our faith, we tend to go downhill pretty quickly. When we talk about the energy, when you were doing the cards earlier about, if you're feeling heavy, you're not resonating with your true self. You're not resonating with your highest self. So how do you get back there? And faith is a big part of it. And
Right.
it's one of the struggles I think we can battle with the most at times as being a human.
And I think that it's really important. It's like, for those of you who've been keeping up, last week we had Joni Light on, and we talked about the joy of Jophiel. And one of the things that I consider Jophiel, as we talked about last week, was that she is the archangel of faith, because she lifts us up to a place of positiveness and therefore provides us with a place where we can be in faith. And we talked earlier about Sandalphon also being this archangel of faith. So this archangel that helps us to sort of plug ourselves into that energy of, I don't think I can get my prayers up off the ground, but Sandalphon can. And so, we've sort of been, in essence, without having planned it at all, been in this space of almost a lesson of faith for the last few weeks of this whole archangel progression. And when you really think about it, the whole element of angels is faith. Because it's our faith in them that allows us to make the connection, that allows us to be connected with the divine and for whatever else that bothers us. But it's also our faith in them that allows us to be in a space where we can receive, where we can accept what it is that we're asking for and have it come back to us.
I think too, if we look back at any moment in our life, Because I had a client, a student asked me one time, she said that her son was questioning, like, religious questions about people on the other side of the world who's never been taught. And I said, well, I don't have all the answers, and I definitely don't, ever proclaim to. But from my own personal experience, there's always been that part of source within me that I could connect to. Does that make sense? Like this part that, like, there's something that rings true. There's something that, when we talk about when something resonates with you, it hits in the center and the core of your being. And we all have a spark of that because we are all part of the divine. And so I think going back to moments where you had something happen, you had something show up to get your attention, because I know there are a lot of spiritual teachers and leaders out there that say, if you're not asking for the help, they're not going to help you. I kind of don't agree with that, because I can tell you that they're trying to love and support us to the best of their ability at any given point in time. And I think most of us have had those moments where we weren't asking for help and something got our attention that was way beyond coincidence. And we believed it completely because we weren't asking for it.
Yeah.
So if we can go back to those moments, it can take us back to faith. I think when we start to ask and we're more disconnected to how that information and how that love shows up for us, we can doubt and we can scramble. But think back to those moments, or a moment in your life where the divine showed up, and it was outside of you, and it was outside the force of nature, of whatever the situation was that got your attention to make you pay attention, and believe in that again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's so powerful and so important. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to give people a sample of the music that is the maestro, that is Heather Hildebrand. So I'd like for you to do a little prayer for them that is for their connection with Sandalphon. And then on the other side, we'll talk about where they can find you and also what's coming up next week. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful.
All right. Well, then I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so let's just take in a few deep breaths. Breathing in the goodness, the grace, the mercy, the peace, the protection of the divine, and allowing that to settle into your soul. Wiggle your feet, wiggle your shoulders, let go of any stress, of any thoughts, of any heaviness, and just allow the love of the divine to envelop you. We call on Archangel Sandalphon, and we send up gratitude for all of the many, many prayers that have already been answered in our lifetime. We send up gratitude for being loved so wholly and so completely. We ask for direction to guide us with every word, every thought, every action, every decision, to help us to know what we should be asking for help with. We ask for your help in allowing us to receive, expanding our ability to do so, helping us to understand and feel how worthy and deserving we are of all things good. We ask that any part of us that has struggled with the thoughts or the words to say, if you struggle in that way, we know that Archangel Sandalphon will hear your thoughts and send those to the divine, and to bring back the love, the support, the clarity, the direction, the information that you may need moving forward. We ask Archangel Sandalphon to amp up your faith, to help you to trust yourself, to trust your intuition, which is just your communication with the divine, to trust that you are loved, and to trust that the whole universe is working for you, never against you. And in those moments that you may feel like it has been, that you will open your heart and that you will open your mind, and you will allow the love of the divine to shine light back into your being, to help you to focus on the love and the light and the lessons, and release everything else to be completely healed. We are grateful for the time that you've allowed us to spend with you today. And we ask that moving forward, your connection with Sandalphon and all of the beautiful, loving beings that are here to support you, your personal guardian angels, your spiritual guides, all of the archangels, that you just allow that love to show up. Doesn't matter what you call them, doesn't matter what you name them, it doesn't matter how you speak to them. There's no wrong way to do it. And we just ask that Sandalphon shows you the path to miracles in your lifetime. That Sandalphon, like music to your ears, gets your attention and helps you to open up your heart space to receive all of the love, the peace, the joy, the magic, the miracles, the vitality, the prosperity, whatever it is your heart desires, that Sandalphon will help you to feel at home in your being, that Sandalphon will help you to trust your heart's desires and to understand that you are worthy and deserving of living a life that is beautiful and lets you express the most beautiful expression of your being and live out your fullest potential. We ask for all this or something greater, and so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful as always.
A quickie.
Okay, I'll leave that be.
Yeah, we know my prayers can sometimes get lengthy, and that's okay.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect prayer. Perfect.
So I tried to wrap up a quick one.
No worries. So where can people find out about Heather Hildebrand? One of the things you said that is so critical is that besides being the poet laureate of prayer, you are also a fabulous medium and basically the source of my healing with my passed over father. Thank you so much for that again. And so tell people where they can find you and what it is that you do.
HeatherHildebrand.com. Of course, you can find me on social medias, but I'm having to start Facebook all over because, sometimes imposters get in there and wreak havoc. But HeatherHildebrand.com. I still work with clients one-on-one. I love to teach. I have my mediumship mentorship program coming up. And I love helping people elevate their life and really break down any habits that they've formed that are keeping them from living their best life. And I love connecting them with their loved ones on the other side. My strengths are prayer, teaching, connecting with people one-on-one, and connecting them with their loved ones in spirit, and also most important, helping them stay connected to the true divine spark of their own. And I love, Radley, that you have created so many products for people to very easily bridge that gap of, I just can't say thank you enough. I mean, so many of my clients, your decks have such freaky accuracy. This is what my clients say. They go, it's so accurate, it scares me. It's a little freaky. I'm like, no, that's just the love. Let that love shower all over you, because it's all love.
Oh, thank you, sweetie.
Thank you for letting me be a part of your show today.
Thank you. I'm so glad you could be here. So next week, we are going to be talking about an archangel named Archangel Raziel, R-A-Z-I-E-L. And I'm super excited because the utterly iconic and totally a hero of mine, Denise Lynn, is going to be on talking about her new book, 21 Days to Uncovering Your Past Lives. And we're going to be talking about that with Archangel Raziel, who is said to be the archangel of past lives. And so it's going to be a super fun talk. So don't miss that. That's going to be episode number 23. This has been episode 22. And so also keep in mind that I do have a class coming up that, actually what we're having is a sale, the springtime sale. And one of the main things in that sale is a class I teach on my Angel Wisdom Tarot cards, which I super love and I always turn to. It's all about the symbolism, all about everything about that deck, but there's a lot of other stuff in that sale. You can find out about it by going to radleyvalentine.com/springtime. So once again, I want to say, hey, and thank you to all the awesome people at mindbodyspirit.fm for the podcast, and to all the people who are watching on YouTube. This has been the Angel Tarot Show with Radleigh Valentine and Heather Hildebrand. We will see you again next week.